Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're looking at the first BREAKpoint deck for the expanded format, and this is going to be based on the new Darkrai. I think this is a really good card in both standard and expanded. I thought today we'd do the expanded one, because I feel this is slightly better than the standard, but the standard should be following soon with the old Hypno combo, so I think this is a really powerful deck. I think it has one-hit KO potential on EXs, as well as having decent tank potential on its own. So for that reason, I feel like it's going to be a new contender for the expanded format. So yeah, let's get into it. First of all, we have 3 of the new Darkrai. Darkrai has 2 very good attacks. The first one is Dark Pulse for 20 plus 20 more for each Dark Energy on all of your Pokemon in play. So that's pretty decent. It can get pretty high if your opponent is missing knockouts here and there. So that's something to be aware of, but it's actually the second attack Dark Head for a Darkened DCE, which does 80 damage, and if your opponent's active is asleep, we do an additional 80 damage, so that's 160, not quite perfect numbers, but one of the main ways we're going to try and get people to sleep is via Hypnotoxic Laser. It has the 50-50 of doing sleep, but it also gives us a plus 10 damage from poison, remember. So that gets us to 170, and then we have Fury Belt as well to push us to 180 for those times where when we're up against things like Darkrai, we actually have to hit 180 instead of 170. So, yeah, Laser's going to be one way we try and increase this damage, and we've got Pokemon as well to get us there as well. So, only 3, because we also want to play one of the old Darkrai, because his ability is fantastic. Dark Cloak gives us a lot more flexibility, which is really good. And additionally, his Night Spear attack can be decent for dealing with stuff like Joltik. I think Night March might be creeping back into expanded a little bit because of stuff like Puzzle of Time. It gets much stronger and could even be a competitor in expanded format now. So yeah, this Darkrai is good for trying to deal with Joltics. We do have Psychic Resistance, so we're already fairly bulky against stuff like Pumpkaboo, so they do have to commit quite a bit, which forces them into Joltik, and then Night Spear becomes very good because we can take multiple knockouts, which is cool. We also have Fighting Fury Belt in the deck, so these guys basically become like the HP of Mega EXs, so that's always been difficult for Night March to deal with, so we're hoping that this sort of tank potential gives us enough time against Night March to win games. So that is our split of Darkrai. I think it's important to have this one, but this is obviously the main attacker of the deck, so I think the 3-1 split is correct. Next up, we're playing 2 Shaymin. We know exactly why this is in here. Setup is the ability that everyone looks for. We do have DCE, so Sky Return isn't out of the question. Again, against stuff like Night March, we normally force Joltik because of our resistance, so being able to Sky Return, retain DCE, go into one of these guys to literally just tank can be really awesome, so that's a play for us. Setup is exactly what we're looking for. This deck is relatively combo based. We need Dark Patches, DCEs, often we need lasers to increase our output as well as try and get the sleep flip, so Shaymin's important to keep us drawing throughout the game. We are playing one Seismitoad EX. Seismitoad is good. Really good for mirror matches because we have Pokemon that can force sleep on our opponent. So when we're in mirrors, if we can send the Toad asleep and then punch them, and then they sometimes miss the Quaking Punch because obviously they can't use their switches, their float stones, their super scoop ups, they're really limited in their outs. So if they do stay asleep, Quaking Punch them, and then we break their lock, and you know, it's really good if you can break a Toad's lock because then you can start using your lasers, start setting up your attackers for future turns, so it's really good to be able to do that. So we're really good for mirror matches. It's also really good against Sableye Garbodor, because that deck, as long as Time Puzzle's still around, that deck is going to be pretty powerful, and shutting that stuff off with Toad is just stopping a whole lot of headache for a while. Next up we have Hoopa. We do have Toad, Shaymin, and both Darkrai that we need to search out, so Ultra Ball normally gets tremendous value with this Hoopa. There's a reason why I'm not playing Keldeo, and that's because of bench space. We need to keep slots for our next 2 dudes, which are going to be Munna. Munna is the combo card that we've seen with Ninetales back in the day, because of its long distance hypnosis ability. We get to flip a coin once during our turn. If heads, your opponent's active is asleep. If tails, our own active is asleep. So you could see why Keldeo does have synergy in here. The only issue is bench space. We can't Hooper out Shaymin, Dark Cloak, and Keldeo and have enough slots for Munnas as well as having backup attackers. So we can't play Keldeo in here unless we cut Hooper, And when we cut Hoopa, it's a lot harder for us to get into our combo pieces. So I've decided to cut Keldeo and go around the bad flips in different ways. So it's fine if we flip tails on Munna, but obviously to increase the damage we need to hit at least one heads on one of these guys, or the lasers that we use. So although it does sound flippy for damage, we have so many flips that it's actually unlikely for us to miss one-hit knockouts with Darkrai. So Munnas are fantastic for getting into our higher limits of output. And again, it's what we use with Toad for Toad mirrors, so really, really cool. We are playing one Comp Search. It's just because, like I was saying, we're combo based, so getting into that combo is important on the very first turn, and Comp Search helps us do that. There is some debate if you want to play Dowsing Mech. I guess it's based on playstyle. Comp Search is going to give you ridiculous value early game, but the what's it called? Dowsing Mech, it gets back an extra Dark Patch or an extra Laser, and both of those are really important in here. So I can see playing Dowsing, but at the moment I'm testing out Comp Search because it's, you know, just more consistent early game. Next up, we're playing 2 Switch. I'm choosing Switch over Floatstone because of Munna. If we just had Floatstones and we flip tails on the Darkrai, we stay asleep, and, you know, Floatstone's not going to help that. Neither is Dark Cloak, but if we play a Switch and then we have Dark Cloak on something else, we can just move back into our attacker. So this is one of the ways we're going to get around the sleep. It's the less preferable option, but it's also really good early game for moving out of whatever we have active. This is normally what we want to play on our bench so that we can go DC Dark Patch turn 1 to try and get the first turn 180 damage. So having switches in general is good early game, and it's great for when we miss flips with Munna. But this isn't the only way we get around Munna, so be aware of that. 2 Battle Compressor. We are using Dark Patch, so getting Darks in the discard is really nice at times. And also we play Tech Supporters as well as 4 VS Seeker, so we know the synergy there, of course. We do have 4 VS Seeker, like I was mentioning. We have a bunch of one-offs in this deck in terms of supporters, so VS Seekering them at the right time is pretty crucial, and pretty classic and expanded these days. Almost everything's playing Compressor Engine for this very reason. We are then playing for Trainer's Mail. Trainer's Mail is just another big consistency card that a lot of decks are using. Lasers are really high priority in this deck because it helps us reach those one-shots, as well as hitting Dark Patch, Ultra Ball, VS Seeker, all of these things. Trainer's Mail is always going to get value in here because we have so many items that are all really valuable to us. Next up for Ultra Ball, like I was saying, the value is just ridiculous when you have Hoopa involved in the mix, so it's going to be our first Ultra Ball search as long as it's in the deck, and as long as it's not our active Pokemon. We're going to get into 2 Darkrai and Shaymin are normally the things we go for, so Ultra Ball is ridiculous value there, and then every other Ultra Ball it's going to be from Munnas, so really, really important to max this card out to get us into those outs. Then we have for Dark Patch, like I was saying, Dark Patch is one of the big combo pieces that we need for Darkrai to get attacking on the first turn, and also it means that if the Darkrai is response KO'd, we can come back, Dark Patch DC, and start the cycle all over again. So it's very important in here to keep us competing against these decks that can also one-shot back. We have 4 Lasers. This is probably the biggest card in the deck. Definitely one of the strongest cards ever printed. Laser, not only is it giving us that extra 10 damage of poison, but on that heads flip, we get an extra 80 damage. So when you flip heads on Laser, it's a plus 90, so that's pretty insane. And yeah, they're really, really good. For tools, we are just playing 3 Fighting Fury Belt. Pretty simple. This also is a way for us to reach 170. If we got the Munna heads flip and didn't use a laser, we hit 170 with the belt. There could be an argument for adding just one of these to be a muscle band to hit 180 more consistently, and also sort of releases the pressure on lasers, but personally I just think the extra 40 HP is so big, and oftentimes we're not going to get punished just by having the plus 10 damage. I think it's really worth us sticking these Fury Belts on, because we go to 220, makes it a lot harder for Keldeo Stoys to get 1-hits, makes it difficult for Yveltal decks to get 1-hit responses, even stuff like Gallade, they need to, they have weakness, so they still can, but, you know, they actually need to use a supporter now, which is fun. Yeah, pretty much everything that's not him for weakness is going to struggle to one-hit this guy, thanks to Fury Belt. They need to find, you know, megaphones and what have you. We have, for supporters, one Hex Maniac. Again, it's going to be strong for Keldeo Stoice. It's going to be strong even for mirror matches if they're using stuff like Munna or even Malamar. Malamar's an option for this deck. I've gone for the Munna build, but you can go for Malamar plus Energy Switch. If you play Malamar, you probably need one or two. These switches become energy switches. You have to cut a few other consistency cards so that you max out energy switch. So yeah, I rather the consistency build and having flips over Malamar. So that's just my personal preference at the moment. The Malamar build is definitely an option though. So yeah, Hex Maniac shuts off Mirror. It shuts off, like I was saying, Archie Stoice, which is a huge thing. Those are the two biggest ones really. We're playing Xerosic. Again, we are fairly ability focused, so being able to get rid of float stones on Garbodor is still pretty important. It's going to be good for getting rid of Headringer, getting rid of additional energy in mirror matches. So yeah, plenty of reasons why Xerosic is nice. AZ is also really nice. It's another way of moving out of our dudes if we have something awkward in the active position. Again, if we're under Garbodor lock, Dark Cloak isn't working for us, we can AZ up something that's stuck in the active position. We get reuses from Shaymin, and we even get reuses of Munna, which is an important thing to remember. If we flip Tails, Tails, and Tails, we can AZ for another chance. So yeah, AZ is pretty nice in here for a bunch of reasons. One Lysandre. This deck is way happier hitting EXs than non-EXs, so you want to take 3 EX knockouts to win the game. Lysandre can help us do that. We are playing 1N. Like I say, this deck prefers trading on EXs. If you're against non-EX decks, sometimes they can race ahead in prizes. A great way to stabilize is using N. Then we're playing one Colress. We fill up our bench really quickly. Like I was saying, Hoopa is almost always our first turn search. So even from the first turn, Colress can be value. We fill the bench up with Munnas from there on. So oftentimes this is an 8+, depending on how many our opponent starts benching. So there we go. We are playing 3 Juniper as well, because this is of course expanded. We can use Juniper. Sorry about the glare. But yeah, Dumper Draw is really nice. Extra synergy with Dark Patch because we can get rid of regular Dark Energy. But most of the time it's just Dump and Draw for 7, which is always really strong. So finally, we're playing 3 All Night Party. This is the best way that we can get around Munna. So it's almost sometimes better if we flipped heads the first time on Munna and we have our other one still to go. It's sometimes still worth going for the flip to try and get Tails so that we can get a 30 heal on one of our Darkrai's, which is pretty cool. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, because this is a new card, if either, well, you know, your opponent can choose to do it as well, but if we're sending our opponent to sleep, we're normally knocking them out. So once during each player's turn, that player, if their Pokemon is asleep in the active position, you can remove that sleep and heal 30. So again, it's going to help our tank potential with Darkrai. If they can't deal with Fury Belt, sometimes decks fail to 2-shot us now if we get the addition of healing. Think of it as like a rough seas for just the active position. That's what we're going to try and use it as. So All Night Party is fantastic. It's another reason why I like the Munna build compared to Malamar, because you can get this plus 30 heal, which is a really big buff, and helps you, like I say, against these 2-shot wars. It's really, really nice. The only issue is when we're reaching for KOs, but then we miss KOs for whatever reason. Like if we're up against a Mega or something random like that, then they get the plus 30 heal. But either way, it's not really going to hinder us too much because we're easily 2-shotting when we do send them to sleep. So that's not a concern for us. Normally it's just a heal for us anyway. So yeah, there we go. There's the items and the Pokemons. And finally, it's just energy. Pretty simple, really. We have 4 DC, of course, because, you know, Darkrai runs off of it, and it's going to help us out against when we use Sky Return and Toad, and it's also the DC retreat cost for stuff like Munna and Hoopa, so these are obviously huge in this deck. We all know why, really. And finally for energy, really simple, just 6 Darks. I think 6 is the right number. You actually never really want these in your hand. You only want to get the attachments via Dark Patch, so it's actually not great to start these. You much prefer just compressing them away for Dark Patch potential, because your manual attachments are normally going to be these for your attack, but there are obviously the chances to use double patch plus attach. Obviously it works on the Nightspear Darkrai, so I think 6 is the right number overall, because there's going to be a lot of times when people miss KOs on you in response, so 6 is going to be fine to see you through most games. And of course it provides us the free retreat with Dark Cloak, so these count as basically float stones. So really, really awesome. That is the deck. Tell me what you guys think about it. If you like the Munna build over Malamar, if you want to see a Malamar build potentially, like I said, it's not going to look too different. Like, these become Malamars and then a few other cards get cut for energy switches. Those are like the big changes. Remember that you probably have to increase your actual dark count as well, because that's the time when it's quite different from this deck where you want to see these in the discard pile. The Malamar build wants to see more in hand, so you have to be careful about how many you compress away, because then you ruin your chances for how many you have left to draw into to activate Malamar. And of course, you spend turn attachments on Malamar, it means they're not putting DC on Darkrai. So I think the Munna build is faster, and you get more consistent attacks with Darkrai, but not necessarily more consistent like one-hit KOs than the Malamar. So it's up to you really which build you want to play. I personally prefer the Munna, just because we can use stuff like All Night Party, and so that we can you know, abuse a few other things. Like, our manual attachments are always going to be double colorless, so it's going to help us chain Darkrai's a lot easier than the Malamar build does. So yep, that is the list. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about Darkrai in Expanded, and tell me your thoughts about how it is in Standard as well. A profile for that will be coming very shortly from either myself or Jack. I can't remember which one of us is doing it. But yeah, there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Comment about whatever you want down below. I'm sure I'll respond to it. We're normally pretty good at that. So yeah, it's been Joe, and I'll see you guys next time.